Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to take a look at cleaning up some of the mess we've made in the previous episodes, as well as pimping out the front page. So it's been looking a little bit lacking, but we are going to make it look pretty today, or at least part of it. So first of all, let's go ahead and go into the moderation item content controller. And here what we're going to do is we're going to sort out this bit that we return here. So I've thought about it, and I don't want to return sort of a wrapper that contains the list of two things and then zip it up on the front end. We're gonna follow the sort of API standards where from the root we're gonna return a list of items instead. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off with the end here. So instead of returning a new item, what we're going to do is we're gonna go into our moderation items, and not like that, we're going to select the new item, right? So the moderation item is basically the thing that we want to convert. And what we're going to do, we're going to go to the moderation item view models. We are going to pop this over to another screen here so we can take a look at it. And pretty much everything that we had here, let's go ahead and grab it just like this from the moderation item view model. So I can pop this over here if you can't see it. So this flat projection, we're just going to copy all of this and we're going to delete it, right? So we're no longer going to need it. Let's go ahead, close it, and let's pop everything else here. For all mod item occurrences, if that's selected way too many, what we can do is we can select one and then just select the next occurrence and replace all of that with X, okay? So that should sort that out. Let's go ahead and remove the return new. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a target object, right? Because we might be moderating multiple different types of items, so this could be whatever. Let's go ahead and make sure that we remove the as queryable part here, and let's replace this with a Y for reviews. You can place the R there or write out the whole review if you want to. That's not a big problem. So the next thing that I want to do is the user that we grabbed here. I no longer want to grab the user from here. I want to grab the user from the moderation item itself. So the person that's put out the moderation item, we want to grab that user. And we can go ahead and take the user and we can go into the user view models. And I think it is, we want the create flat. So let's go ahead past the user here and let's just go ahead and quickly take a look at what it is. So that's going to be user ID, username and image. Yeah, that looks all right. So now about basically mapping our tricks to our moderation items. I know this may look scary, but at the moment we only ever have one type. So we only ever execute this query once when we aggregate these target IDs. First of all, what I want to do is, instead of doing this whole thing here, I want to aggregate these objects. So let's go ahead and create a target mapping. This will be a new dictionary where we can have a string where we're gonna put that specific trick or object to a specific moderation item. Okay, so the object, the thing that we're putting in, is the trick, and the string is going to be to which moderation item it needs to go to. Now what we want to do, let's go ahead and quickly just cut this out from here. It's okay to leave that error there because we still want to take a look at that. And then we just want to place a for each loop, right? So let's go ahead and just call this group, and then we'll just do the same thing here, where from the group we're going to extract a bunch of IDs, and again we'll do the same thing where we'll execute the query. So again, we're just gonna have one group at the moment, which is gonna be tricks. So for 10 moderation items, all of them are tricks. We execute a query where we to list it, and then for all of them, what we want to do is we want to attach it to a specific target mapping. So we want to put it with the correct moderation ID. Okay, so we can remove this part. And instead of projecting the model here, let's go ahead and comment this out. What we're going to do is, I apologize, I put this as string and I said we're going to be mapping to the moderation item, but actually we have the target ID in the moderation item here when we extract it. So when the moderation knows what it's pointing to, we want to put that pointer here. So when we go through each moderation item here, it's just going to point into the dictionary and it's going to just extract the thing that it needs. So when we toList this, here what we're going to have is a full-fledged trick, okay? And for each one of these tricks, what we want to do is we want to go into our target mapping. We want to put it into the trick ID, this trick, which is going to be the trick view model flat projection, right? So create flat, and here we're going to put the trick, okay? So this way we kind of know what we're putting and where, and then all that's left to do here is from the target mappings, we can just say grab the target. And because every time if we ever extract it for a different group, the story is pretty much going to be the same. For that group item, or yeah, for an item from that group, we put it into the index, and then we can grab it from whatever the moderation item is pointing to, right? So let's just not forget to actually grab the group key and make sure that it equals to moderation types trick, right? And only do this if we have the specific moderation type. So this is now going to place the target mappings in the target object, and let's go ahead and see how this is going to affect our front end. So let's go ahead and open up the mod ID. So this is where all of our moderation items happen, and actually that's the wrong page. Let's go ahead and go to the index page. This is where we do the zipping part. So on here, the target object is going to remain the same. The thing that's going to change is basically where this target object comes from. And that we actually already assign it on the backend, and this is the same thing sort of happens there. So we no longer need to do any of this basically destructuring and zipping up, so we can go ahead and remove that. What I think we will need to do is the user will no longer come from the target object, right? So we just grab him from the moderation item. Okay, so let's go ahead, save that, and let's take a look at how this works. So on the moderation screen, here we'll have first, of course, an error of 5,000 and a bunch of other stuff. So is this, yeah, so this is failing on the backend. So let's go ahead and take a look at what this is. So this is a null reference exception to the user, and specifically it's a user missing on the moderation item, because this is where we're using this. So the only moderation item we have is the one that we seed. So let's go ahead into the program, and in the program, let's go ahead and find where we have the moderation item. So on line 145 for me, and the user ID is missing. So we've never put the user on here. So let's go ahead, grab our test user and put the user ID on here, right? And we can close that. Let's go ahead, give this a refresh now. And there we go. Everything works pretty much same as expected. Now, one thing on here that is missing is the load more button that we didn't actually implement. So let's go ahead, come back here, go to the index page, and we will scroll down to the end of the list item. So let's go ahead and put another vList item into here. And in here, we'll just have a vList item content, and in this content we'll just say load more, and on this should only be really displayed if it's finished or not. But let's go ahead, bind the onClick event, and let's say load more. I think that's what we have, or load content. That's the thing that we want. So we will load content if we want more. So let's go ahead and see this button. The feed pretty much finishes at that point, so we want to hide it. So let's go ahead and first give this a class of text centered. See if that centers it. If not, maybe there is no ed on there. Let's go ahead and put a deflex justify center on here. Oh, missed the dash. Let's see what this looks like. Okay, and that puts it in the center there. And let's say vif not finished, which is the property that we have on our feed here. So let's go ahead, take a look at the feed, and if it's not finished, let's display it. So because only one record is returned and we're expecting to get 10 per call, that means it's finished, right? There's nothing more to load. Another thing that I wanted to fix is if we go on the mod item itself, you can see, I think, yeah, the little load that it does here, that doesn't really need to happen, or you can see that it isn't actually loading unless we navigate to it. So like that, right? The reason that that's happening is if we go on the moderation item ID page where we have the moderation item, where we do this bit here and the loading of the reviews, we are not actually awaiting any of these. So let's go ahead, store these promises into variables and use promise auto await on all of them, right? So load reviews. Let's go ahead, copy this, put this here and here. Here we are loading current, and here we're loading the target. Let's go ahead, return, or rather maybe await, promise all, and let's supply an array of load reviews, load current, and load target. Yep. So now if we refresh the item, all of this stuff should get pre-rendered and given to us. Okay. Now, the next thing that I wanted to do is actually give a little bit more logic to the reviewing process, where a moderation item can be rejected, not just approved. So if a lot of people reject it, we close it, and just how we're going to handle that. Okay. So let's go ahead, come back here, let's close all of this stuff, and let's actually open up the moderation item, and we are going to give it another property. We're going to give it a bool of rejected, and this is the flag that we're going to say to basically say this item has been rejected. Okay, and the purposes for which we're going to use it, I mean, they're unknown yet, but yeah, just flag it just in case. So scrolling down to line number 121, this is going to be in the review process. So this is when we submit the review. Specifically, what I want to do here is I want to kind of extract this goal, and at the moment it's 3. So what I want to do is if we go over 3, approve. If we go below, so -3, go ahead and reject it, right? Otherwise, just kind of like hang in there. So let's go ahead and define a goal where we're gonna have 3, as well as a score that we're gonna keep. So score, and let's say wait. Both of these can be set to 0. And the thing with the, actually, let me put the integer back here. The thing with the score and the wait, so I want to expand the boundary if somebody says wait. So if we say wait, expand the boundary by 1. So if 1 is waiting, it will need 4 votes to kind of approve it, right? When we approve the moderation review count, this is no longer the thing that we want. We want to sort of aggregate the score here. So let's go ahead and for each var review in moderation item reviews, we want to go ahead and figure out if the review, if I remember how to spell, status approved. If it's approved, the score goes up, right? Let's go ahead and copy this, put a here a couple more times. If we reject it, the score goes down. If we waiting, we increment the wait. Okay, so now that we know this, what we want to do is what is this review? Let's just put this to R. It'll be a little bit easier in this loop, and put maybe else ifs on here, not to check this multiple times. So once we've built up our score, weight, and goal, what we want to do is we want to either approve or reject. So the goal is going to change. So score, if we are higher than the goal, that was the original constraint. What we want to do now is say plus weight. So if there are 3 approvals and 1 wait, we will need the 4th approval to actually go over and confirm this. So let's actually put a higher or equals. Otherwise, if the score is less than or equals, then actually let's remove the brackets on here. I don't like goal minus weight, And the goal, I think we want to do this. So minus goal, that would be -3, minus weight, that would be if it's 1, -4, and if score is less than that, that's when we want to close it, right? So in here, let's go ahead and say that the item is deleted. And here we want to say that we have rejected it. And maybe we want a to-do cleanup target, right? This is not something that we're going to implement now. I don't even think we necessarily need it. We could just leave it there. But for now, we're just going to leave that here. And we're going to let that thought sizzle in our heads, right? When we come to try and sort it out. Now, the next couple of things that I wanted to do is if we actually go on a trick, we can still try to vote. And that is obviously going to crash. What I want to do is I want to say kind of disable this bar here if you're not signed in. So we're just going to expand what we're going to display here if you are signed in or not. Okay. So another thing that you can see is the profile image here, because we removed the padding, it looks a little bit wacky. So let's go ahead and open up the submission. Let's first of all add a padding. So I can't actually remember if it was what kind of padding it actually is. I think it was 2. Yeah. So that looks all right. And now let's go ahead and take care of this thing here. So primarily this lives here. And the thing that I want to do, I don't even want to let them click this button to see the sign in to comment. I want that already to be displayed. Okay. So we're going to move some stuff from here into here and basically disable it. So let's go ahead and take this stuff here. We're going to copy it. We're going to go into here. We're going to put a div and we're going to pop it in here. Okay. Everything that we have on here, I don't think the small clause actually did anything, by the way, so we can actually remove it. The less the better. Let's go ahead and go and put disabled here, right? And again, the same thing here. This is going to be disabled and we don't put anything else on there. Let's come back here and it's obviously not going to display because we only display it if we have VF show comments. So let's go ahead and remove this part, and we actually only want to display this when we have this bit here. So let's grab these card actions, cut them, put them inside the allowed template, and the other bit we will wrap it with this as well. So let's go ahead, put this here, vcard action closing tag here. And I think this div was a bit of a mistake. Let's go ahead and remove it. And then grab the rest of this, put it in the vcard actions, delete this div that we had with the vflex or whatever. And then the MDI comments, let's go ahead and remove that. Let's go ahead and see what this gives us now. So this is what it looks like. Let's go ahead and refresh it. A little bit wonky. Let's see what is giving us this awkward padding. So vcard action and pxpb, whatever that thing is. The padding on here, I don't think we need it at all. Let's go ahead and remove it. And let's take a look at this. So this looks fine. So this is disabled. The score still shows. We can put a tooltip there to, say sign in to vote, but sign in to comments can pretty much stay there. We can do that if we want. And let's actually sign in to make sure that the other part is actually looking fine as well. So password, come back where we came from, close that. And the padding looks a little bit out of whack there. So let's go ahead and on the comment section here, let's go ahead, put a class here, and px I think will be 2. The bottom one seems fine, and let's give it a 3. Yeah, and that looks more or less all right. The only thing that we want now is actually move the VF show comments onto here. So now this is going to be hidden. So we bring it up, we close it, you know the spiel. Now, for the grand finale, the actual thing that we were going to take care of is this front page here. So what I want to do is I want to, every time we display a trick, I want to go ahead and grab the best submission for that trick, okay? So what we're going to do is, let's go ahead, close this. We're going to open up the index page that is in our pages, so the front page, and we're going to do this in a different section. So let's go ahead, put a div here. We can put like H3, H6, doesn't really matter. This can be a paragraph, but I think if I remember correctly, H5 tricks and text center. I think that should put it there, right? So in here, what we're going to do again, because we are in the social media world, this has to be a content feed with the load more button. Let's go ahead and create a content feed, right? So coming back here, let's go into web client. We're going to go into components and we're going to create a new directory because we have other parts there which we might not have time to solve today. But let's go ahead and create our front page folder. So here are the components that are going to be displayed on the front page. Let's go ahead and bring up a new component, a view component, and we're going to call this trick feed. If you want, you can prefix it with the front page trick feed, and I think I'll actually do just that. And let's go ahead, copy the name, make sure that we put it here, front page trick feed. And first things first, let's actually put it after here, mixins, feed, order, none. Now the feed is going to work a little bit different from how other feeds work in the sense of how we're going to be loading content, because we already have all the content in the dictionary. We don't actually need to go to the API to fetch it. We will need to go to get our submissions. So let's go ahead and see what we do here. So on the index.view, let's go ahead and just put the front page trick feed here. And let's go ahead and close it off here. Don't think we'll need anything else other than maybe a divider to separate the sections. Let's go ahead and comment out the trick feed here. And let's come back here and close this thing. Actually, wait, on the index page, will it be worth grabbing anything from here? Nope. I thought I was gonna grab a card from there, but we're gonna build it up from scratch, right? vcard, let's go ahead with 300. I think we can put a div here because it might complain that, you don't want to put the for loop on a root element. So trick and content. So remember that content comes from the feed. Okay. And I think actually the card won't help us do what we want to do. Basically of how it's going to get displayed on the front end. So what we actually want to do is we want to do a v-row and how that's going to basically position all the stuff on screen, right? So let's get a v-row in here, and we are going to put a column in here as well, and that's where the card is going to live. Okay, don't want to highlight that one. I am formatting it, and let's go ahead and take our v4 loop and we'll put it on the column. Now I think the first thing that we're really interested in is how are we going to load the content. Let's go ahead and we know where we grab our tricks from. So let's go into compute it. We're going to map state, and map state, we grab it from Vuex. We go to tricks, and in our tricks, we have lists, right? Here are the lists, and in lists, we have tricks. Cool. So in our feed mixin, what we have is we have a function that says load content, okay? And that's what usually grabs it from the API. What we now want to do is we want to override it to grab from our list store rather than from the API. So our list store is going to have a finite trick amount of tricks, right? We just don't want to blast the user with data, but we already know sort of everything, all the tricks that we might want to potentially display, and the client has that information. So what we want to do is we want to kind of slowly iterate through that. In here, let's go ahead and override load content. In the load content, what we'll do first is we will grab the max range that we can go up to. For this, we'll go to lists, tricks, and length. So this is the absolute top. This is where our cursoring stops, okay? So let's figure out where up to where do we want to go to. So cursor plus this limit, right? So this is our sort of steps, because anytime that we go over to this, these are the segments that we're going to grab. So if2 is bigger than max range, and because we're dealing with arrays here, we want to put a bigger or equals, and this is where we're gonna cut it, right? So at the moment we only have 3 tricks. So for example, if we try to grab 10 from our list, that's not gonna work. So we want to basically cut it to the 3 that we actually have. Okay, so this is what is actually happening here. So let's go ahead, grab our tricks from this lists tricks. We're gonna slice the array to, grab a slice, like grabbing a slice of cake, right? So we grab a cursor. So if this is at 0, we want to grab it up to an amount, right? And here we have our tricks. After this, what we can do is we can go ahead and just increment this by the limit, right? Straight away, so we don't forget. And see, it's highlighting limit. Okay, so it knows what it is. It's just joking. For all the tricks that we have, we want to go ahead and grab the best submission. Okay. Let's go into our trick controller, and we grab a submission here. Let's go ahead and remove this space. Let's go ahead, copy this and put it here. And here we're just gonna say best submission. We're gonna return an object, and we're gonna go from first or default. Trick ID is gonna be there. Feed query, we don't want it. So let's remove the order by feed. Everything else is fine. What we want to do now, so we have a list of all the submissions. Let's go ahead, order by descending. And here we're gonna order by the score, really. So we want to select, or rather sum the value, and at the end we're gonna have a score. I'm not sure, do we need an include for this? I believe we do. Let's go ahead and put the votes, or maybe not. We'll see. If this errors, we will need it. If not, then not. Let's put a V here for votes. So again, we sum up the votes. This is gonna give us a descending ordered list. So if a trick is backflip, all the submissions for backflip, they're gonna be in the order of highest to lowest, and then we're just grabbing the first one, and that's pretty much it. So this is how we're gonna grab the best trick, right? Now, for all these tricks, let's go ahead, return promise all, and tricks. We can use the for each function here, although I do prefer using the map one. So let's go ahead, grab each individual trick, and I don't think we need that. We can just go ahead and map this to an Axios call, where we go ahead and we get a /API/tricks/ these are gonna need to be backticks, and we're putting in here trick.slug. So for the trick slug, we go ahead and get the best submission. I think we can go ahead and maybe make it like this. Is this prettier? I don't know. Submission, we get the submission, and in here, do we need to do that? No, I don't think so. Not context on content. We want to go ahead and push the actual trick that we had, right? So if I format this, let's not forget that we are inside of this map function. So maybe, yeah, not the prettiest looking thing, right? But nevertheless, at the end, let's go ahead and just zip up the submission, right? So again, we grab a segment of tricks from our Vuex store. For all these tricks, we go ahead and grab the best submissions. We wabam, put it together. We await on this thing. When we, what's it called? When we first load our page, we actually want to go ahead and load this content, right? I don't think we need anything else. Just remember, I've done this mistake a couple of times now. Make sure that you return your promises. Otherwise, stuff's not going to load on your backend. You're going to be like, why is it not loading, man? Right? So don't forget to return. Coming back here, what we want to do is we want to add a title, we want to add a submission. Let's go ahead and put this stuff in here. So vcard title, and here we are going to have trick name, and I think we can have vcard text. I want these to be really small. I don't want to have anything too flashy. So description, and in the middle we will have a submission, which we are going to make a little bit more slimmer. All right. We want to bind the submission to it, so this now lives on the trick, right? So submission, and there we go, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at what this looks like. So let's see, cannot read property of undefined. This is an old error. Let's give us a refresh again, and so there is nothing on the back end. The issue is rather with loading the submission. So we're not missing any props, are we? Let's go ahead and see what is being returned. I'm not entirely convinced here. In the tricks controller, are we returning the correct thing from here? This should include the user in the video. So wait, we're looking at the wrong thing. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. Unless it doesn't return anything. So, I mean, it does say it's undefined. So let's go ahead, put a VF submission on the trick. So submission. Okay, so that should maybe at least give us a rendered page. And I guess it does. It does look a little bit wonky. So let's go ahead and see. So you can see it is, looks messed up a little bit. So let's put the call deflex justify center. So this should be a line start as well. So yeah, just hide those things, right? Now we have our submission component in here. We will do a couple of things with it to hide it and stuff like that, but generally this is the thing that I was looking for, right? So you can see that, I mean, the column, the row, it just puts it all together. It gives us this, mobile first experience. Now, the question is, why would the user be null or whatever, right? So what is actually happening? Does the loading happen on the back end? And let's see if we can do anything about it. So I can't see these loads happen here. So let's go ahead and just take a look here. Submission. Okay. So that actually makes sense. If there is no submission in the database, we can't display a submission. So I think that error was fully justified. Looking at this, though, a couple of things that maybe there is some too much padding there, maybe, or elevation is a little bit off. Okay. So the first thing, you can see this margin over here on the submission itself. Let's go to the submission. To the top here, let's grab this class and let's remove it. Then go to the submission feed where we've actually used it, and let's just put it here. Okay, close that. Now, there are a couple of things that I want to fix this. I want to slim this down. So I don't want to have this sort of information, this comment section here. So I want to remove a bunch of stuff here. So I don't want people to press this and display this, like this information here doesn't make sense. It doesn't need to be here, right? So another thing that I'm actually noticing here, yeah, so we might want to put if we go on the comment body just quickly while we're here. Class padding all 2 again. It's just something that we want to put on here. Okay, yeah, cool, that looks better. Right, let's just add a little flag that we can basically say, right, give me a slim model of this. So let's go ahead and put a thing on here. We'll say slim. Type boolean. We'll change. False. Right. Default false. Required false. Type boolean. Right. So if we say that it is slim shady. Right. Let's go ahead and hide a bunch of stuff. This whole thing. Let's go ahead and only display it if, we're not in slim mode, right? So we kind of remove that bit and we just display the description of the trick. The submission itself, like the test description for the submission, I don't want that either. A couple of things here that might be worth displaying, maybe comment count, upvote count, or the score. Let's go ahead and put something like that there. So where we have the span here with the append, let's go ahead and put div here, vif slim, and div, or actually this will do, velse. In the div, let's grab this much. So I don't want those buttons there. Okay, we'll just remove those. We'll just put icons. So remove those buttons, just icons, and we'll do something like this, right? So there it is. Maybe we can shorten the margin here a little bit, and maybe even more. Just remove it all together. Let's take a look at that, right? So that looks a lot better. Maybe they could be bigger, maybe they would be if we had more tricks, but for now I think this looks more or less fine. And the thing that I want to do is if I click on this image, I want to be able to click on the video, but if I click on the card, I want it to take me to that trick still, right? So what we don't want to do is we don't want to use a 2 because we won't be able to override an event because we have an element inside an element kind of thing. And if we click on the child element, we want to stop the event of the parent element. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we want to do essentially and what we want to prevent, right? So on the click, let's go ahead and just use, what's it called? Router push. We're gonna have where are we going? We're going to /trick and trick /slug, right? So that should be it. So if we click on it, you saw the whole thing, right? If we just play it, we go there as well, right? So what do we do? So first things first, let's go ahead and take care of, if we click on a child element, let's stop the basically the navigation click event. So the click event of the parent. Let's open the video player, and in here where we have the click playing, yeah. Let's just go ahead and press stop here. So this is a Vue.js thing. I'm going to leave a link in the description to the documentation about events. This is what you do if you want to stop propagation of events, right? Let's go ahead and give this a refresh. If I press this now, better. A couple of things that are happening here now are you still have the ripple and you have the focus. So the ripple is, we're able to disable it quite easily. So here we'll say ripple, false, and I think that's pretty much it. Although, no, actually, we want to bind it like this. So coming back here, if we play it, you can see it's no longer there essentially, although the highlight is still there. So that's a little bit annoying. Let's go ahead, press F12. We're going to go ahead and inspect the element. We're going to make sure that we grab the outer bit. The way that you can verify that you grab the outer bit is if you press focus or active, it's going to change the color, right? So once that's done, leave it on there, collapse the hover, type in focus, and here you will be able to find the thing that's basically responsible for, you know, it going wonky. Let's go ahead and grab this class, back to the code all the way down here, and opacity, we'll say, I think a 0 we want. Take a look at this. We'll reload. We play. Did I had copied like half of it? Let's try again. There we go. Okay. Give this a refresh. Again, play. Okay, and there it is. So all of these cards may be a little bit too small. Let's put them up to 320. I think that will be a better number. Yeah, just a little bit bigger. I think that will be better. We have to sort out these edges. We'll do that later. We also have to sort out these edges, but we'll do that later. Another thing that I actually noticed when testing this is I did something like this, right? So I went to the backwards roll. I said upload. Let's go ahead and upload another video, right? So I thought, right, oh my god, this is awesome, right? And I was next and saving it. God, what happened? How did this happen? when did we break this? And I looked through the commit history, and I can't remember. I think it was when we were cleaning up the submission store. I've broken this, so let's go ahead and fix this up. So opening the video upload store, basically this creates submission where it dispatches the create submission here to the store. So first of all, this no longer exists. So let's comment this out. We're going to remove this in a second. Another thing that we could do and stuff like that, but we'll get to, right? Let's go open up the submission steps. This is the part where the editing happens. So as you can see, we are just posting to the controller. So the reason this fails is if I get a track, no, I don't. Basically, the video ID is missing, okay? So what we want to do is we want to take this post that we have here and actually do the post here, okay? And instead of this form, just supply the form. Because that post doesn't really happen anywhere, the action that we do there. Now what we want to do is grab this create submission and actually bring it back here, because I think that's what it was before. And then we want to go this, create submission, and actually pass this form as the form. Okay. Oh, deleted way too much there. Okay. Now we're going to start uploading the file. Once we save it, we create a submission. The create submission function will actually await the upload promise, and then it will post it. Okay. It's not going to just post it here. So there were two mistakes. First was the post here, and the second one was calling a a action that didn't exist, or doesn't exist anymore. Okay. Another thing that we can do is quickly going up here to the start video upload. I mean, this really doesn't matter that much. We can put a $sign here, and that will actually just return the video here. I mean, it can just make it just that little bit more succinct, right? Every little helps. There'll be another part where I've made a pull request to the Nuxtjs module to fix this issue that was here. When we do the package updates, we will need to basically sort that out. But anyway, let's go ahead. Let's try uploading another trick, and let's see what this looks like. You will see this is always in the different orders, depending on how the backend returns it and how we render it. But nevertheless, let's go ahead and sign in again. Again, that's something that I will take a look at. Why do we get signed out so quickly? I know my password's not secure here, man. Come on, man. Go into submissions. Let's select a trick. We will go forwards roll. Was it? Yeah, description, some kind of description. Save it. Cool. So the error, right? So the error that's happening here is again something that I've noticed. So we have actually two errors. So let's actually take care first of the warning, and then of this step is not a function. So we're here with the setup. Let's actually take care of it here. Let's supply a default function like this, which is just not going to do anything. And then anywhere where we attempt to use this function that's currently broken, it's just not going to do anything with it. Okay. And for the key error, it was on the front page trick feed, is we just didn't supply a key on this call here. So let's go ahead and say something like trick feed, and we'll just say trick ID. Okay. Now we didn't make a change to the backend, so I think we should actually still have our trick here, right? So the second thing uploaded, it has 0 upvotes. If we go to it to upvote it, I know I didn't bind the buttons here, but hopefully you get the point. We refresh it, it's still there. Play it, all good. Not sure what's happening here with the size. I will try to take a look into that as well. But now actually if we open up the submissions, it shouldn't crash anymore, because if we remember something that we did a while back is when we do the form, when it's created, what it does is it runs the setup. And again, this is where the function's null. It doesn't really check. I mean, it should, it doesn't. Let's actually do this setup. Let's run it, right? If we have it, run it. I mean, at the moment, it's we handle it on both sides. right? So all good there. Nevertheless, this will be it for this episode. Thank you very much for watching. As always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Helps me out a lot. As always, I stream on Wednesdays and Sundays. Come join, come say hi, and I'll see you in the next episode.